Hi, I'm Helen Arney, and it's an absolute pleasure to share a few of my thoughts about the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra concert featuring Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony. Let's start at the beginning with Camille Saint-Saëns' Phaëton, a 10-minute wild ride that has all the drama of a Greek tragedy, but none of the words. It's the second of 4 tone poems that he wrote based on the Greek myths that fascinated him throughout his life. Now, Phaëton is not the most well-known works by Saint-Saëns. In fact, it was completely new to me when I started working on this concert, which means you have a delicious treat ahead of you as we discover this work together. And I think the best place to start is to have a potted history of the whole legend so you know what you're listening for during the piece. And luckily, I have one here. Phaëton believes he is the child of Helios, god of the sun. He travels to the east to find Helios in his palace, the place where he keeps the horses and chariot that pull the sun god across the sky every day, from sunrise to sunset. The young Phaëton wants to prove his worthiness to Helios and asks for just one favour: to drive his father's chariot across the sky for a single day. Despite warnings from Helios that only the sun god himself can control the flaming chariot and its wild horses, Phaëton is determined, and Helios hands over the reins. Phaëton soon becomes overwhelmed and loses control of the galloping horses, causing them to veer off wildly and canter towards the earth. The fiery steeds scorch the ground, creating deserts, and drag the heavens dangerously close to the earth, creating the Milky Way. Before Phaëton destroys everything in his path, the most powerful of the Greek gods, Zeus, intervenes to save Earth and humanity. He strikes the reckless charioteer with one of his lightning bolts. Phaëton is killed, and his flaming body falls into the Eridanos River. On the banks of the river, his sisters turn into trees, weeping tears of amber at the loss of their brother. Next, we move on to a concerto that needs almost no introduction. It's Tchaikovsky's first piano concerto. It's one of the most popular pieces in the concerti repertoire, and it's full of exuberant melodies, lush orchestration, and virtuosic piano throughout. It's loved by audiences and pianists alike. This isn't just romantic music. This defines romantic music. The first movement is an extraordinary showcase of everything you can achieve with just 10 digits and 88 keys. Everything from the crashing first chords to the twinkling high notes and growling bass notes, and everything in between. Just watch out for any flying keys as the pianist tears across the piano keyboard. The second movement starts in a flowing, floating dream world with the flute and cello sidling up to the piano as if asking a little question. The pianist answers by picking up the pace to a central section full of cheeky charm before returning to the opening theme of the movement. The final movement brings the energy of Russian folk dances from Tchaikovsky's home country, and it throws them backwards and forwards between the piano and orchestra. It's like watching 2 competitive runners racing towards a grand finale. They're trying to outdo each other, they're not leaving anything on the track, and hopefully they cross the finish line at the same time. When Tchaikovsky finished his concerto, he offered it to the virtuoso pianist Nikolai Rubinstein for the first performance. However, Rubinstein replied by saying he would like a complete revision of the entire piece and suggested then he would do the honour of playing it at a concert. Tchaikovsky, being Tchaikovsky, told him exactly what to do with that offer and said, "I shall not alter a single note. I shall publish the work exactly as it is." And thankfully he did, after crossing out the dedication to Rubinstein first. Our next piece brings tragedy back to the programme, but this time it's not the story of the piece, it's the heartbreaking life of the composer, Lili Boulanger. Matin, printemps, or Of a Spring Morning, was the last piece that Lili Boulanger completed for orchestra before she died at the age of 24. On a first listening, this short piece, it's only 5 minutes long, might make you think of carefree mornings with its crisp and delicate texture. It feels like the whole piece has been created by dancing sunlight and spring breezes. But when you delve deeper into the life of Boulanger, you discover pain, tragedy, grief, loss beneath that charming veneer. Lili Boulanger came from a family of musicians, but even she showed a precocious talent. From the age of 2, she was reading music before she could even read her alphabet. When she was 3, she started tagging along with her older sister Nadia to classes at the Paris Conservatoire. And when Lili caught pneumonia at the age of 6 and was chronically ill for the rest of her life, Nadia was the one who made sure that she achieved her dream of becoming a composer. Lili finished this piece shortly before she died from tuberculosis, after battling ill health and the depression it caused throughout her life. Perhaps the lightness of this piece makes more sense if you know that Lili composed a sister piece to go with it, D'un soir triste, of a sad evening, in the same year, 1918. Even at the age of 24, Lili Boulanger knew that every joyful spring morning would have an evening of sadness and loss. She was wise beyond her years, and her pieces give us an insight into Lili as a person, but also into the human condition. Finally, we head back to Saint-Saëns for his Third Symphony, the one that most people know as the Organ Symphony. When he wrote this, he'd reached his 50th birthday milestone, and it had been 25 years since he finished his Second Symphony. He seemed to know that this would be his last attempt to write one, and he needed to make it special. Saint-Saëns was a bit of a multitasker. He was finishing this organ symphony at the same time as he was finishing Carnival of the Animals, that piece that children and adults so adore. For any of us who feel like when they're supposed to be doing one thing, they actually want to be doing something more fun, these words from Saint-Saëns to his publisher should be comforting. I'm in the process of perpetrating a vast composition for the coming Mardi Gras. That's the Carnival of the Animals he's talking about. I have only the finale to write out of 14 pieces. You ask me whether I would be better to work on my symphony? Well, you're right. 100 times right. But the Carnival of the Animals is so amusing. Unlike Phaëton, Saint-Saëns didn't write this piece to try and tell a particular story, but it is full of drama and emotion. It's like a roller coaster of feelings from beginning to end. There's a reason why it feels like a roller coaster, because most classical symphonies like Mozart or Haydn or even Beethoven, they don't mix up their themes. They keep them to each movement and they don't swap them around. Saint-Saëns throws that rule book out the window and he puts all of his themes in every movement. And that creates this one unified piece that carries the audience on a wave of drama. I've got one suggestion for listening to this piece. Forget that there is an organ in it. I promise you it's the best way to do it. It's like knowing the end of a movie or someone telling you how a book finishes. If you're waiting for the organ all the time, you're going to miss some really good stuff. The structure of this symphony doesn't fall into the traditional 3 or 4 movement format. Instead, it's just split into 2 halves. The introduction begins slowly and it seems to mimic those classical sonata forms that we're all so familiar with. But then Saint-Saëns does something different. Just when you think you know what's going to happen and he's going to repeat the same themes again in a different way, he does a handbrake turn and moves you into a slow section. You can't miss that moment because it's the first time the organ makes its somewhat understated entrance. And from that moment, the whole piece builds up from scratch, reaching a new dramatic high. The second half also breaks the traditional mold. Just when you think you've understood the patterns that he's creating with those driving strings and the fidgety woodwind, he does another handbrake turn and sends you somewhere completely different. Saint-Saëns' big new idea here is actually not a new idea. It's based on an ancient Gregorian chant. But even that is thrown under the bus as the organ makes its last entrance. Then strings and piano take us towards that final, over-the-top dramatic climax. In some ways, this whole symphony could be seen as a retrospective of Saint-Saëns' career to date. He loved to play the organ, so he put an organ part in. He loved writing virtuosic piano parts. The one in this piece is so difficult it needs 2 musicians to play it. And of course there's acres of orchestral drama. But Saint-Saëns wasn't just looking backwards, he was looking forward. He wanted to push the boundaries, create something new, create something that would be loved by so many and played throughout the ages. Did he succeed? Well, Saint-Saëns conducted the premiere in London and audiences were wowed. Critical response was a little more mixed. One reviewer from the London Standard said this: "I need to hear the piece again in order to form an opinion." Perhaps a world first there, a London Standard reviewer completely lost for words. If that doesn't tell you that this is a jaw-dropping, utterly original new piece, I don't know what does.